Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. This is Mike Wolf, and today's conversation is one that I'm really excited about. I'm talking to Darko Mandich, who's the CEO of MeliBio. I had written about Darko and his company for The Spoon, and I was just fascinated with this idea of creating honey without the bee. Now, I shouldn't have been super surprised that someone had come up with this idea. We're seeing all sorts of innovation by companies using synthetic biology and innovation in food science to essentially move away from less sustainable sources and create food that is essentially a complete replication or an almost an entirely complete replication of what we're used to eating. We've seen it with companies like Perfect Day creating essentially milk without the cow and other ways and other types of innovation. So the idea of creating honey was just one that I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense that someone would want to do that. And so I figured it would be fun to get Darko on the podcast and hear his story. And it was a really fun one to talk about. So I hope you enjoy it. Just kind of a note, we're going to be doing more of these interview podcasts, talking to leaders in the food tech space, continuing also to do the roundups around the news with my coworkers at The Spoon. But I hope you enjoy these. We just want to hear the voices of those leading this food tech revolution. And so if you want to hear from someone else in the world of food tech, feel free to give me a shout out on Twitter or just email me, mike@thespoon.tech, and let us know. Let me know who you want to talk to, because I think that we're just going to continue to do more of these, especially in 2021. So yeah, that's it for now. Enjoy the conversation with Darko. Hey, well, I'm really excited to have Darko Mandich, the CEO of MeliBio, on the podcast today. How you doing, Darko?
Good. Thanks for inviting me.
And where are you? Are you in San Francisco now? Where you come from?
I'm in San Francisco. Our company is in Berkeley, but I came from Europe to the United States in 2019.
Where from Europe?
Serbia. That's a small country in Southeast Europe. It's a very agricultural country, and it's one of the biggest honey producers in that part of the world.
Which makes a lot of sense, because you are creating a startup that is trying to create honey without the bee, and we're going to dive into that. And so, but when you came to the United States, was this idea for your startup already in your head, or is this something that you came and you discovered the world that you wanted to create with your new company? Tell me a little bit about that story.
It's an interesting story. In 2012, I joined the honey industry in Europe, where I stayed until I moved to the United States. I joined the honey industry with the premises that it's one very interesting product. There's been great legends and myths about honey through different cultures and religious books. So honey is perceived as a very powerful product. And at that time, I joined the industry understanding that food is, in a way, industry that helps us to shape the future. And I thought that being the part of that industry, I'm really helping the bees. But when I found the recent studies about the influence of honey industry on the bees, I actually had this aha moment, and I realized that not all the things are like we thought they are. And I then realized that with the knowledge that I have around honey industry, that I can really help it to become better. That was at the same time with my personal transformation of realizing that I want to become vegan, because I realized that in order to be able to feed 10 billion people, if all of us would be going after a lifestyle which is not sustainable, then we wouldn't have this planet anymore. And I realized that wanting to join the vegan space, I realized that there are tremendous companies working on different kinds of animal products to be replaced, either in plant-based, recombinant, or cell-based addition. And I realized that there isn't a company working on making real honey without bees. And then I realized that that's something what I want to do.
Yeah. So you have all this knowledge, almost a decade of bee industry knowledge, and you combined with like essentially your kind of super twin power on the science side, who I think his name is Aaron Schauer. And you guys co-founded MeliBio, and you're basically creating honey without the bee, right? Like you're actually creating actual honey without the bee. So talk a little bit about how you're doing that.
Meeting my co-founder was an amazing thing that happened to me. That's the first moment when I felt the magic of San Francisco and this Silicon Valley thing. I've been reading in books about Elon Musk and Steve Jobs that they were just like having an idea, meeting their co-founders. And I thought in a way it's kind of a beautiful storytelling that America is very capable of. But coming here, I went into that machine myself, maybe 3 days after I landed in San Francisco, I started visiting meetups and meeting amazing people. And on one of the meetups in San Francisco, I met my co-founder, and we realized that both of us are really passionate about bees, about food sustainability. And I pitched him this idea about making honey without bees, and his reaction was, "You're crazy, man!" And his second reaction was, "But wait, let me think about that." And then we met next week, and the story of Melly Bio unofficially started in December 2019, where we started looking into it, reading a lot of papers, thinking about how to design our own method, and then in April, we officially incorporated the company and joined the Big Idea Ventures program.
Right. Yeah. I'm amazed at the speed, right? So you came in 2019. I knew you had kind of founded yourself in late 2019. So you didn't actually have your co-founder ready to go when you came. It wasn't one of these cases where you knew him remotely. You met him and almost had like an instant kind of honey falling in love. And then you guys founded it. That's a pretty fast founding for a company.
Two guys nerding out about honey in San Francisco. I mean, like that needs to be used as a great momentum to start a company. I'm a big believer in how companies can really create a better world of today and tomorrow. And I really didn't want to be stuck in overthinking. I just realized that there's an amazing scientist and a passionate chef and gardener who knows about synthetic biology, and there's also a business executive from the industry that we are changing. And that recipe looks like a great recipe. And we didn't wait. We started the company together. Now what we are doing is we are developing a proprietary technology that will empower us to produce real honey without bees. And that technology is empowered by the latest advancements of plant science, synthetic biology, and biofermentation. And we believe that what we are doing is just at the very beginning, appreciating where other companies at biofermentation are today. This is a very exciting times, and it's exciting to be pioneering that industry with others in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I mean, in our pre-call, I was kind of describing you as you're akin to, analogous to something like Perfect Day, right? Who's made a name for themselves, saying, "Hey, we're creating dairy, but we're doing it without the cow." You guys are creating essentially bee honey without the bees, using, like you said, plant science and fermentation, and there's a lot of reasons for that, right? We can kind of at a high level talk about why we want to do that. I mean, the bees are under tremendous stress globally. We've seen kind of the decline in the global bee population. So this doesn't necessarily, though, taking bee production away from bees doesn't necessarily help bees, because bees are just kind of suffering more broadly because of the environmental factors, right?
It's a great question. The latest studies show something that's not that familiar to the wider audience, and that's the fact that putting out there more honeybees, putting more beehives is actually not good for the bees overall, because there are 20,000 recognized bee species, and honeybees is just one of them. And that's the bee species that we domesticated. So putting them all over the country and continents, we are pushing back on wild and native bee species. They live in smaller groups, and bringing new beehives chases them away, meaning that the current honey industry saying that buy more honey, we produce more honey, we multiply the beehives. What's happening? We are destroying other bee species. So in the end, we would end up with a single bee species, and those are honeybees, Apis mellifera.
Right.
And those are just an average pollinators. And if we losing a species of native and wild bee species, we cannot return them anymore. So actually, next to the climate change, we realize that honey production of today is actually one of the biggest reasons why we might end up losing bee species on this planet. And that would mean losing flowers, meadows, beautiful nature, vegetables, fruits. And that was, to me, as someone who has been a part of this industry, is unbelievable. And when I started learning more about that, I deep dive and realized it's true. It's a perfect example of how we people can live in not understanding fully the consequences of our work. I believe deep down that there are more good people than bad or evil people. It's just that people are ignorant and they don't know, and they don't have the full picture. And I realized if I was being able to be part of the industry for 8 years, not knowing all the details, that actually imagine what can a dairy farmer understand about the influence of dairy industry, or what can someone who has been raising animals for meat, if that person would be fully able to understand the consequences of that and listen to that with an open heart, what could happen. So I want to be an example of evolution of a thought, and being able to use the knowledge of the previous way how industry worked and utilize it to create a better future of that industry.
Interesting. So it is you kind of were in the industry for a decade, and only recently you really discovered how potentially damaging is kind of the monoculture and lack of kind of biodiversity that kind of scale bee production is on the broader kind of bee ecosystem, which that's really interesting. I do want to talk a little bit about the technology, right? So I know that I know Aaron's your kind of technical science-based co-founder, but can you describe again in a little more detail how you're creating this honey without bees? How are you doing that?
So honey is a very complex product. I mentioned that to you in our conversation earlier. You can find up to 300 different compounds in honey. So we are really looking into what is honey, what are the main building blocks of honey, and what are the super ingredients that make honey a very powerful sweetener. So we are basing our technology on understanding that bees collect nectar, which is basically a sucrose, and then there's this enzymatic reaction in their gut, which is helping that conversion of nectar into fructose and glucose. So the portion of the synthetic biology and biofermentation that we plan to use is mainly around creating that building block of honey, and that's fructose and glucose. So what we did is we found and identified certain microorganisms that we can engineer to behave in a way to help us converting sucrose into fructose and glucose. And that's like the building block of the technology. Also, what we are looking is how to efficiently add some of the other components and compounds of honey. It's a very big challenge, which I'm really happy about, because the bigger challenges that keeps the company more excited about it and our work relevant.
Interesting. So the bees that are the conversion engines, essentially, into honey, you're basically you found some compounds, and through synthetic biology, you're going to be able to kind of synthesize that and replicate that. And that's kind of where a lot of the focus is. And so this is essentially something that would take place in a bioreactor. And so can you talk about like the time frame? So how long would it take from the kind of the inputs to the actual time where you actually have something resembling honey? I mean, and maybe at a scale, you obviously have your early kind of prototypes, but over time, as you perfect this, how long will it take?
This technology is yet to be built for let's say full scale up. As I mentioned, we started working on this year, and most of the year actually we spent in looking for the efficient microorganism that we can build a novel proprietary technology around. So I'd say that we'll definitely take a couple of years before we get to the full scale of production. Currently, what we are also doing is we are looking into different plant extracts that are really helping understand how certain honey gets certain flavor, certain color. So there's also a lot of plant science being built there. What we anticipate in terms of the products in the market, we anticipate our first products to be in the market end of next year, but those products won't be coming from bioreactor, but rather from a standard co-manufacturing equipment used in current manufacturing facilities. Honey coming from bioreactor at scale will require more R&D work in order for the scale to be done properly. There's this sentence that's always in our head, you should scale solution, not scale problems. Therefore, we as an early company, we partnered with very experienced advisors to understand how can we bring this idea and this vision to a fully operational method. The good thing about this is that a lot of capital and interest is coming in the fermentation section, but regardless of that, we really want to make sure that we are doing things lean and doing things in a way that once we scale it, we do it properly. We've seen that there are companies that are ahead of us that raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're still figuring out the best way how to scale their production. So we also want to learn from the entire space and the community, and we want to do things right in the right way.
So one of the exciting things I think about synthetic biology and kind of this level of engineering where you're recreating something is you can maybe get entirely new variants. So are we maybe looking at potentially new tastes or new forms of honey, maybe honey that maybe is healthier? Honey is already fairly healthy, but it is a sugar, it is a sweetener. So you don't want to just down it in massive quantities. So talk a little bit about maybe ways in which you can change honey that could be interesting or for the better.
Michael, that's a great question. And that leads us to our strategic goal number 2. Our strategic goal number 1 is to be able to produce the honey on the same parity as bee-made honey. And our second big strategic goal is definitely to look into honey and find ways how to make it a better product. If you think about certain powerful ingredients that you can find in honey, potentially enhancing your product and having, let's say, tenfold of those superior ingredients and powerful ingredients, you make it a better product for the future. So yeah, we are definitely looking into that. We are looking into, there are 320 main types of honey. Honey ranges from clover to acacia to manuka, and we are looking into each and every type of honey and to see what can be the best roadmap for our company to work on. Currently, we're focused on honey as a product, not specifically looking into any honey type. Then we will be moving towards being able to replicate certain honey types, and then we will be looking into encasing the product. I personally, as a business executive coming from the food industry, I am really amazed with synthetic biology. I'm not a scientist, but I have a strong feeling about getting into synthetic biology field as the next big thing. And being able to live here in San Francisco and understanding that the software technology, we brought it up to a certain level where I think we'll be mostly seeing some incremental changes. While on the synthetic biology, I think we're just at the beginning. We might be nowadays in the time when Amazon was in 1997, just at the beginning. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm really excited to see where can synthetic biology take us, because we need this. We need to feed 10 billion people in 2050, and that's going to be in only 30 years from now.
Well, it's exciting, and I think probably in part for you guys, you guys should have an exciting year next year. You are affiliated with Big Idea Ventures, which I know those folks over there. Andrew is the founder there. So talk a little bit about like them and how they're kind of helping you out.
I'm very biased towards Big Idea Ventures because I felt like as an immigrant to the United States, I felt like I'm getting a family there, not just like investors and mentors. From day one, Big Idea Ventures team was helping Meli Bio to set up the company, to get mentors from legal to science to marketing. We've gone through their extensive 6-month program, which was very difficult. I can say Andrew imagined this program that we can be on different kinds of sessions for, let's say, 5 or 6 hours. And then when we would ask him, when are we going to actually do the work? And you have the rest of the day. So it was very ambitious program. We learned a lot. And the biggest advantage of the program is that from day one, Andrew taught us to think about market. He guided us, even though we are a scientific company and that we want to look to building a technology that enables change. He was always getting us back to the market and market validation and customers and proper business plans. And we are thankful for that to him, because that approach helped us to get 15 clients that signed letter of intent without the product being in the market yet. That really taught us how to taking healthy and sustainable shortcuts that can make our company more valuable opportunity for investing. So I'm happy that we've gone through this program. I'd say that the partnership that they made with the Cell Valley Labs in Berkeley and the team from Ryan Betancourt, that was really helpful, and that it really helped us that we get the best out of the science advice and business guidance.
All right. So looking forward, you said product probably in end of next year. And so that's exciting. And so what do you see Meli Bio being in 5 years from now? Are you guys doing more than honey? You having are you doing consumer facing products, right? Are you going to am I going to be able to go to the store and buy Meli Bio branded products? Or is this one of those technologies that you're basically going to allow existing honey makers or consumer packaged food companies use?
2/3 of the honey consumed and sold in the market is honey within other products. Next time you go to supermarket, look at the bourbons, look at bars, look at granola, yogurt. Everywhere you'll find at least one product containing honey. And we believe that serving the business market first makes sense because of the stage of the R&D development, understanding that honey within other product is not the only ingredient there. I think that makes sense for the first route to take. 5 years from now, we'll definitely be a company with an impact, meaning that we were able to grow, we were able to launch our products in the market. We'll be having continuous R&D development so that we can really produce the best honey out there in the world, all the honey types. And potentially we'll also be looking into other products. What we want to do is we want to build an amazing product inspired by bees, because we trust that bees are amazing creatures that we can really learn from. And bee products are found across categories, from cosmetics to pharma to food. So definitely stay open to that. Our vision is to be a company doing good to the planet, to the humankind. And we want to be the company that saved the bees, because if we lose the bees, this planet would be a great place.
All right, man. Well, Darko, hopefully you will save the bees. That's a great and ambitious goal to have. And so good luck to you. And thank you for spending some time and telling me about Meli Bio.
Thank you, Michael.